So welcome everybody to another chat with the 30-day Comprehensible Input Challenge Champion. So what exactly we're doing here? I think this time I'll explain it this way. Do you believe that your subconscious mind can work stuff out for you without your conscious mind necessarily being aware of it? Especially when it comes to language. It's a big question, actually, because a lot of people think that you need to be consciously aware of everything that you get in the input and notice things, and only then will it go in. But there's another school of thought that says that if you just get comprehensible input, then your subconscious will do all the heavy lifting for you. So what I've done is I've prepared 30 stories, 20 minutes each, so that's a total of 10 hours, where I give you comprehensible input. It's comprehensible because I use pictures and gestures and so on. But the language I'm speaking is a tiny constructed language of 120 words. So that means the process runs much faster and you get results very quickly. And so in these interviews, I'm interviewing people who have watched them all, and that was what makes them champions, because they sat through 10 hours with me, Natarin and Toki Pona. And today I'm joined by Saagar. Welcome, Saagar. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, no problem. It's the videos are fun, so it's my pleasure, I guess.
Well, thank you. If you're interested in checking out the videos, by the way, you just need to go to YouTube and search for the abbreviation OPETP, which stands for pilin Toki Pona, and you'll find all the videos that way. So we're about to have a conversation in Toki Pona with Saagar here. But before we do that, I think it's interesting to just have a chat about your background with languages. So what would you say is your background with languages? Is Toki Pona the first language other than English that you've encountered, or, what's your story?
No. So I guess English is my native language, but I grew up speaking Hindi as well. I cannot write Hindi, but I guess I can speak it fairly reasonably well. Like I can converse with people. And then in high school, I learned Spanish, which I still understand, but that's basically. So yes, I have experience learning a different language. Obviously, it's a more complicated language, and it took a long time. And I don't, not too great at Spanish, but
Yeah. Okay.
not unfamiliar with other languages.
Nice. So I suppose you could say that English and Hindi are your naturally acquired languages.
Sure.
And Spanish is maybe the one that you've studied artificially.
Right.
So would you like to just quickly talk about the way you perceive these two groups of languages? Or so does Spanish feel different to you than the other languages? Or what's it like for you?
Yeah, so speaking, I'm very I guess in terms of feeling self-conscious about the languages, speaking English and Hindi, I'll switch between them or speak them without hesitation. With Spanish, I usually have to think about, what am I saying? I'll often, I think I'll get like grammar and stuff wrong. Actually, well, I mean, in Hindi, I'll probably get grammar and stuff wrong too, but it's like, colloquial, like it's the kind of language I've learned this, that if you talk to someone who like learned it growing up versus like someone who's like studied it formally, like you learn the actual grammar rules, right? And like, this sounds correct. So in Spanish, I'll like actually make mistakes that like I know there are mistakes, but like, right. But it's definitely not at the level of I am comfortable speaking this language. I will speak it in situations where it is necessary. But it's not something that I don't enjoy it. I feel self-conscious when doing it.
Yeah.
So there's definitely that. I can mostly like, if I try to like read it, compared to say English, probably like 2 or 3 times slower. Usually I'll figure out, what it means, but that's kind of the level I'm at.
Okay, cool. All right. So what convinced you to take the challenge then, the 30-day challenge? What made you do it?
I have a friend who's really into Toki Pona, and then he sent it to me. And then he's been doing this for like 2 years, I think, or like at least a year. And then he keeps spamming messages that I can't read. And he's just like, okay, do this challenge and you'll be able to read them. So I resisted doing like he was like, oh, I have like a bunch of other ways. Have you learned? And like I didn't understand any of them. I didn't spend too much time, but he's just like, okay, here's like a translation service, and it would give you like really bad translations.
Yeah.
So I figured at least I should do this, and then supposedly this was some sort of experiment. So I thought it seems reasonable.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so for the sake of the friendship.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, good for you. All right. So before we have a go at this conversation, I also like to just ask a couple of technical questions because I would like these interviews to be somewhat useful as data. So the
Sure.
baseline concept is somebody who knows nothing about Toki Pona at all, comes along, watches one of these videos each day for 30 days,
Right.
doesn't study any Toki Pona or look anything up at all in that period. And the first thing they do after they watch the videos is have this interview. So what I'd like to just check is how close you are to that. So before you started watching the videos, what would you say your knowledge or exposure to Toki Pona was?
So yeah, I do have a friend. He would send stuff in Toki Pona. I knew, Toki Pona is like, I guess good language or whatever. Right? Like, I knew those two words. I knew
Right.
like, one or two other words that are like, in like I think he sent me like some like video about like so emu or something like some fox say moo. Like so okay, so I know like those words. But other than that, like I did not learn anything. I guess during the videos, I just watched your videos. I mean, I didn't even it's I feel a little bit, like, do I actually know the language? No, right? But like I all I did was watch the videos.
Okay.
If that it answers your question, yeah.
So did you check out any of the online learning resources, those websites that explain Toki Pona?
No. So
No.
I didn't
Okay.
look up any words. Yeah.
Okay.
So just watch the videos straight through. I did. So one thing I probably should mention is I didn't necessarily watch them one every day.
Okay.
Actually, like last weekend, I think I watched like 3 or 4 of them at once to kind of, I should be done now, but yeah.
Okay. Now that's cool. All right. Okay. Well, it's not it's not a test or anything like that, but I think it's interesting to just get an idea of the baseline concept, and then to what extent there's a little bit of deviation, so that when we have our conversation, and people are like, "Oh, wow, that's good," did he really watch the videos?
We'll see.
We have an answer to that
We'll
question.
see.
All right. So
if it's like fit to share, it's just like, he doesn't know anything. Like this entire concept doesn't work.
Fine. It'll be fine. Okay, so Sina Kentucky.
Ike Pona.
Pona. Sina or Toki?
Sorry.
Sina wile Toki eseme. Sina Kentucky. Sina or Toki? Mi? Kute e Sina.
Me Toki.
Pona.
Okay. Me Jan Saagar. Me and Mihe. Pali Ilos Sona Ike Pona.
Sina Sina kepeken ilo sona. Anoseme. Lon. Lon. Sina kepeken ilo sona. Sina lon mamewika. Anoseme.
Uh,
Milon ma Toki, Milon ma
mhm,
Toki, Sinalon
mhm.
ma Mewika, Nililon anoseme.
Uh,
Okay, time out. So,
yeah,
did you
I
prepare
think I'm
something
confused.
beforehand? I think you prepared something from
I
beforehand.
did, and I just read that.
Oh,
So
you just read that.
I
Okay,
feel like
fine.
I'm very. This is very weird for me because I think I normally read the captions, and I'm like trying to
Oh,
understand what you say, and
okay.
then I'm like hearing it, and then I'm forgetting what you said because I'm trying to like I'm like, okay, what's the first word, right? Or I guess like
Okay.
what's the first thing you tried to say, and I
Okay.
forget the rest of the sentence, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, which is very weird. I mean,
All right.
I understood what you said because you repeated it like 4 times, right? And eventually I
It's
got
all
to it,
right, man.
but it's very weird for me. So I
Okay.
guess definitely not conversational, but
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So,
mhm.
what did I ask you? What did I say?
I think the first thing you asked was like, do you want to talk or should I talk, right? Or
Right.
something
Yeah.
like that. And
Yeah.
then I said, so I think I said I would talk. I said like me Toki or something like that, right? Which is like I'll talk.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I read my thing,
Yeah.
which I mean, hopefully you understood, even though
I
I
think I
don't know
did.
if it was okay. And then you asked something about that, and then I did not. It was like too long for me to understand what it was.
All right. Okay. All right. No
Okay.
problem. So, but what did I ask though? I mean, sorry. What was the topic in the end?
So I know you asked a question because you ended with like you ended with like Sam or something like that.
All right.
I
Okay.
think it was about that topic. I think
Yes, it was.
I think you said Elo in it. So
Yes.
I mean, so but I didn't fully understand that question. Um,
Okay. No problem. All right. Okay.
I'm too used to your writing everything and then you draw it and then you so
Yes.
that's how I understand, and
Yes.
yeah, it's very different. I didn't expect this, but
I see what you mean. Okay. All
mhm,
right. Okay. So now that is interesting. So what I would like to suggest,
mhm.
now see, this is quite interesting because um hmm. So
See, I mean, I don't know if this is what probably not what you expected, but
not
like
quite,
it's
not quite.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have an idea.
Mhm.
What if we do this? Um, if you were to watch the videos again, or at least some of them again,
Mhm.
but with the subtitles off,
Mhm.
um, and maybe only looking at the videos when you're not sure what I'm saying.
So maybe I'll just like I think what might work is I would just listen to the audio and see if
Okay,
the
yeah,
other thing is that you also repeat the things several times.
this is
Um,
true.
yeah. So I mean, obviously you're trying to teach it, and then yeah, it's I will try. I'll give it a try.
Okay.
And
4 weeks later.
in a little while.
Okay, we're back. So, yeah, it's actually been 4 weeks since we last spoke. Were you able to listen to all of the audio of the videos again in the
Right.
past?
Yeah. So I just pulled out all the audios, and I went through all the videos again. So
All
it's
right.
my second time going through.
Okay. All right. And how do you feel about it now? Do you feel like you got more out of it? Did you?
In terms of like, did I learn any like new words or anything? Not really. I don't think I mean, but it was definitely very different. I did realize that, listening to it and, what I realized I was doing was I was just reading the text, right? Is very different.
Okay.
So yeah,
All right.
I did. Mhm.
Okay. Oh, well, let's give it a go then.
Yeah. Okay.
Otoki.
Toki.
Okay.
Uh, uh, Willa Toki. Oh.
Sina ken Toki. Sina o Toki.
Um, uh, uh, tempo piniweka
Mm-hmm.
is um mi wile tawa tomo hilo is
Lon.
uh,
Tomo.
um mi ala lape mi pine lape I me lukin lupa I tello sewi
Mm-hmm.
tello sewi me lukin tello sewi I me wile tawa tomo ilo ilo tawa
Non, Ilotawa.
mi 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 open tawa tello sewi lipini suno melukine suno me toki ensa mi can ilo sika
Lon.
yeah me tawa as ala weka as me tawa me tawa open the open tower as ma kiwen I mitawa tawa ante ma ko no ala kiwen mitawa as mitawa mi pini Switzerland Toki ala tower Switzerland Toki ala tower me Toki ala tower mi nasen nasen tello mi lukin nasen tello tello sewi nasen tello suli I len mitawa mi nota I mi nasa alla tempo mi wile toki mi lawa mi lukin ilo toki ante nasin o mi lukin o mi tawa muy suli i mi wile pini Luca chu i mi ilo toki mi lawa o no ala tawa i i
Pona.
mi tawa mi ilo tomo ilo mi
Pinila, sina tawa tomo ilo, sina ken tawa tomo ilo, ano sina kenala.
Yeah, mi tawa ante nasin
Sina tawa
nasan ante.
sina tawa lon nasinante, tan telo, taso, pinila, sina kama lon, tomo ilo ano seme.
On me.
Pona.
Yeah.
Mi wile sona eni, mi wile toki tawa sina, mi wile sona eyo, mi wile lukin eni, mi sona pona e toki sina ano seme. Sina o toki open la, sina lukin e telo sewi, ni lilo ano seme. Sina lukin e telo, lon telo li kamatan sewi, sina lukin eni. Nila sina wile kepeken, tomo tawa. Taso, sina tawa, tan tomo sina la, sina lukineni, telo sewi li kama ala, nila sina toki insaeni, mi ken kepeken, ilo sike, sina kepeken ilo sike, taso, sina ken ala tawa, tan ni, telo li kama tan sewi, lon tempo pili, telo ni li kama tawa anpa, nasin la telo mute lilon. Sina ken ala tawa kepeken ilo sike.
Len
Lon telo li lene nasin. Nila sina wile ala sa nasinante. Sina kepeken ilo toki tawa ala sa pi nasinante. Nililon? Pinila ilo toki li toki nasin pona tawa sina. Sina kepeken nasin pona. Sina kamalon tomo ilo. Nililon anu seme.
No, ala.
Sina ken ala tawa tomo ilo. Pakala.
Tawa sike tawa sike pini tawa pini
Sina ken ala tawa.
ala wile tawa mi tomo ala tempo
Lon. Sina yo ala tempo tawa ni. Nili tempo ike a.
Mi toki mi lawa ni ken toki
That was good. That was very good.
Okay.
I could feel you struggling.
Yeah, it's
because honestly, even though this is like a test of ALG in a way, it's still not enough to get you past the silent period where things start to come automatically. So it does take some forcing. But you told me a story and I tried to verify that I understood it.
Yeah.
I think you understood what I was asking, which is good.
Right.
So what
mostly you're just confirming, I guess, right? So
Sorry?
mostly you were just confirming it, right?
Basically, yes. But what was the story? Let's just say what we were talking
So
about.
yeah, I can share you the story, right? And then I can also probably just mention the things I wasn't really able to convey, or I don't think I did.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I woke up, right? I looked outside, it's raining, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna take the car to work. So I was about to take the car to work, and then the rain stops, right? I see the sun, and I'm like, okay, I can take the bike instead.
Yeah.
I normally I bike to work. This is backstory. And I guess you can tell. I mean, I don't know. I live in I'm in the U.S. I live in California, and we've had a lot of rain.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was one of the I created this story, like 2 weeks ago. So we had rain that day, and so I was like, okay, I need to take the car. It stopped. I was like, okay, I can take the bike today. So I take the bike. I'm going. I said something about, I don't know if you caught that, but it's like, okay, it's on like pavement, and then it switched to not like dirt road, right?
Okay.
So it's just like separate from like it's away from the roads, right? Normally roads don't tend to flood, but well, it goes on to like a trail or something, and it's next to a river. And the river was full of water.
Right.
And then like from the rain. And then they had actually put up a sign that said you can't go. Like it's because the water had come into the truck.
Yes.
So yeah, I used my phone. I found a different way to go to work, and then yeah, I got to work. I was like, I'm late. I need to talk to my boss or whatever. Right? I have some meeting. So yeah.
Okay. All right.
That was basically the story. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how much of that you got.
Okay. Here's what I got. I got that you were going to take the car because it was raining. Then you saw the rain stop, so you took the bike. Then the road was flooded, and I realized either there was a stop sign or there was a sign saying that you're not.
There was a sign. Yeah, that said stop. Yeah, you can't go. Yeah.
Right. And then
I think
used your phone to try and find an alternative route. What I understood from that was that you just gave up and went home because there.
You asked, right? Did you like go back and use the car, right? And I think, I tried to answer of like I didn't go home. It was like far away, right? I didn't have time, so I just found an alternate route. I don't think I concluded very well. Like
no, it's okay. No, it's okay.
Yeah.
No, because in the end I asked you. It's like, did you make it to work?
Yeah.
And the answer I got was kind of no. That was what I was understanding. But I think
I did make it to work. I don't. Yeah, it was.
All right.
I didn't know how to say I arrived. I guess I only remembered how to say
no, it's fine.
Going or right. So
well, that's very good though. That's very good. That's very good. And I think after only there's 10 hours of the videos plus the 10 hours of listening to them again, just audio only to get your ear in. So what's that? That's 20 hours plus we had a bit of a break in the middle,
right?
And you're still able to do this, and you're understanding what I'm saying more or less, and I'm understanding what you're saying more or less. And
it's the gist of it.
It is forced output actually, but you did all right with it. So yeah, thank you very much for doing this.
Yeah,
I want to ask you something. So you already, you're not a monolingual person yourself. I mean, you have some experience of different languages. So within this challenge, thank you for seeing it through first. Has it added anything to your knowledge, or what are you taking away from this?
So I don't know if you noticed, but I actually had a lot of trouble because I don't know like if my brain is doing this or what, but I classify any language I don't know as the language I have 2 languages that I speak fairly well, right? I speak Hindi and I speak English, right?
Yes.
And then I learned Spanish in high school. I speak it, okay, right? I can like have a conversation. I treat Toki Pona as like, I don't understand this, therefore it is Spanish. And I would substitute Spanish words, and like I don't know if I was using like I was trying to not use Spanish words.
I felt that. Yes.
Yeah, it was very weird. Also, yeah, I've not, this was my first, I guess, conversation besides like, the first one we had, which was very short.
Yes.
So I was not in my head. I'm like, okay, I'm going to say this, right? And I know all the words to say it, right? And then you just start saying it. I'm like, wait, I actually know the words. The other thing that I guess I knew I was doing this, but like, I was like, okay, how well would this actually work in a conversation? Is I didn't focus on grammar at all. So I didn't use like, any conjunctions or, they're hard to like, figure out from context.
Yes.
I mean, they just get used, right, in a normal speech. So I just like, I skip them. And then, when you actually have to generate stuff, it's just like, okay, wait, those are actually important. You have to like use them sometimes. I'm like, if you can't just string together verbs and nouns and
yeah.
So I mean, yeah.
Well,
I don't know if you
Yeah, I gathered that. I noticed that you were using Allah.
I know,
Yeah, you were using that.
Yeah.
I noticed you caught yourself. You were saying no, and you said Allah instead.
Right. Yeah.
So,
because in Spanish it's no. So
Yeah.
I think I said tiempo at some point because it sounds like
maybe
tempo.
yes, of course.
So it's
I think that kind of interference is normal when you haven't had enough input in Toki Pona itself to draw just on your experience of that input. So obviously the system in your brain for Toki Pona is incomplete, and you're filling in with you're using your knowledge of other languages to plug the gaps. This is a known phenomenon.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is there's something called bootstrapping. I don't know if you know about that. Basically, bootstrapping means that the first thing you pick out subconsciously are individual words. And then once you've got individual words, you start to recognize patterns among them. And so the grammar emerges from that.
Right. So I would say that, I can tell grammar from, I mean, it's not very evident, right? I can, if you speak, I can probably, translate it with grammar, and I can see where the grammar is.
Yes, I'm sure.
I guess purposefully, because I'm not very comfortable with it, I chose not to use any of that, and I fear that, especially with Toki Pona, I think that it's mostly a nouns and verbs language, right? There's not I mean, there is structure, but it's
there are
just
particles.
There are. I noticed that means like
right.
I was just like, I can understand it without it, so hopefully you can too, and I'm just not going to focus on it. I should learn all the words first.
Well, because the thing is, what's been happening is I've given you comprehensible input in Toki Pona, but I haven't given you enough for you to acquire the whole thing. And particles are late acquired. This is a fact, because when you're getting the input, the things you're most focusing on in the beginning are content words. As you say, nouns, verbs, and so on. The particles come later. And you haven't actually had enough comprehensible input to acquire that whole system. What you're doing is you are more or less consciously applying a strategy to getting the most out of what you know to actually talk above your level, which is fine. It's fine, and it's a perfectly reasonable strategy in this context. As to what it shows about the method, all that I think my takeaway from that is just that 10 hours of comprehensible input is not enough to acquire the whole system.
Yeah,
it's fine.
I think you could probably get the basics of like, this is probably enough to like, okay, help, I'm in this country, I don't know what's going on, right? But it's definitely, I feel like it was probably painful to
well, I was just concerned about your confidence level, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I understood you fine. Your word order, apart from Allah, because of the interference from Spanish, your word order was correct. And that's the most important thing, I think, having the correct word order. And as you say, you can make yourself understood that way. So, of course, what I'm hoping this is to give people the confidence to say, well, you don't need to study all the grammar, you don't need to memorize words before you get started. Just get some exposure to the language in a meaningful way, and your brain will piece things together with time. That's what I'm trying to help people to. Yeah,
I think I just don't have, either enough examples or, like formally someone has like come and told me, okay, like what does, I don't know what loan means, right? I mean, it seems like some sort of affirmative. It's used in affirmative, but sometimes you're using it for like locations and stuff like that. I don't fully understand like what it means. I'm not comfortable using it. Right. Allah is like very clear, like every time it's like some sort of negation or people say like, okay, no, right? So I can use it.
Yes,
I know like and, right, but I just chose to not use anything that would have require and. So that's
fair enough. Well, thank you very much for doing that. Do you have any kind of feedback about the course? If somebody else wanted to take it, what should they know? Or What would you do differently, or what do you think?
So I don't know about the course. I did find, we found that very obvious, the first time I went through it is a conversation is very different than, obviously when I've learned languages, it's been in the context of, someone and Spanish is the one that I talk about, right? The others are just naturally learned. I found it very weird to go from watching someone talk, especially also the way you talk now is not how you talk in those videos, because you draw them and I'm not saying you've completely changed, right? But you repeat things several times, and you I don't know if you speak slower, right? But you definitely draw things. Yes. I noticed that you are every single time you mention a word, you have a gesture that goes with it, so I know what that is. And when you talk and then I don't see that, I'm like, okay, what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So I found that, and then the other thing is that I've never actually going from having to actually talk to versus just listen. Actually, even this time, I would say, right, I was expecting I was expecting more conversation rather than I picked a story, right, but I was expecting that you talk in the middle, right, and then they all came at the end, so I understood it, but I was this is not going very well, right? Because I'm just saying the entire thing, and I feel often in a conversation where you don't understand the language, the other person will often step in the middle and be like, "Oh, did you mean this?" Right? Or they'll ask a question where you can gauge whether they're understanding it or not. And I was kind of just watching it. It's I think he understands, but yeah. Well, so yeah, that was
yeah.
This is specific to this conversation, but
well, this was a very well, like I'm saying, the point of this course is to give you an experience of your brain putting the language together without you needing to consciously work it out. And this
I think
is demonstrating that has happened, but actually it's not. It's not an actual interaction.
I know. I guess speaking more on this was specifically for this conversation, right? Because that's what we just did. In the course in general, right? I am pleasantly surprised that I think by the end I can mostly understand all of the videos, right? I know what the main topic of all of them is, right? If you just pick some random sentences, I'll be okay, I kind of know what that is. So that's good. In terms of do I understand? I think if if you gave me the content in Toki Pona, I could probably understand it, which I think is I guess it's 10 hours plus, and another 5-10 hours or whatever I was listening to it. That's pretty good. I think we'll see. Continue. I have a friend who speaks this, and I've avoided him for a while because I'm not supposed to interact with him. But I will probably have a chat with him and see in Toki Pona and see how well that goes.
Okay. Well, like I say, 10 hours is not enough. It's enough. It's enough for you to experience your brain putting it together, and it's enough to have a little conversation like this just to demonstrate that you have that. Beyond that, you will need more, and there is more available. So, for example, there are 2 Discord servers I could mention. One is Kamasona, which is the learning Discord server. The other is Toki Pona, which is the largest Discord server. You can jump in there. There's a whole bunch of Toki Pona stuff on YouTube, more exposure. And there are also learning resources as well. If you just search for Toki Pona learning resources, there's a lot out there that is really very helpful. So,
I'll probably take a look. Now that I've already put in 10 hours, you're okay, I should probably actually learn the language properly, right?
Well, I think you'll find that the rest will come on quite quickly because you do have this basis. But this is
and I think it's very useful.
A foundation is not a house, so you do need to.
It's definitely a very different way of learning, but I think it's worked a lot. It's worked a lot better than I expected. So
okay, that's good.
Thank you for that. And your videos are very, very good. So
my what?
Your videos are very good. They're interesting, but also I think you do a good job of.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad it's been a positive experience then.
Right.
And thank you very much for taking part. So yeah, if you want to check out these videos for yourself, this is for the viewers and the listeners, then you go to YouTube and you search for the abbreviation OPETP, which is pilin na Toki Pona, which is the name of this course. And if you would like to take the challenge yourself, the 30-day challenge, see what happens, and then come on the show, then visit bit.ly/30DCIC. And that's it. Pona tawa sina yan sako.
Pona tawa sina.
Tawa sina, mi tawa.